Hello, this is Angela Anderson. Thanks for joining me for this acrylic painting tutorial. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to paint this red tree landscape. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to simplify the image a little bit and make it a little bit more kind of impressionist style, and I think that'll be good for beginners, hopefully. Got my husband, Mark, with me.
Hey there, everybody.
He's man in chat today, so if you've got questions while I'm painting, you can ask those, and I'll try to answer. Let's get started. Alrighty, so I'm using a 9 by 12 inch canvas today. This is a Fredrix mixed media canvas board, and I have painted it with a light coat of yellow oxide. I used a paper towel to rub it in, and lots of water to kind of thin it out. So it's dry and ready to go. For our brushes, I grabbed just kind of a variety of brushes. I think since I'm going to do kind of a chunkier style on the tree itself, I'm going to use a variety of flats and rounds and filberts. So these are the Princeton Summit series in the long-handled green ones, and then this one is a short filbert in the Aspen, also Princeton. And then I grabbed a large fan brush in their Dakota line. And then I've got angle brushes and blenders and smaller fans and rounds and liners and all kinds of different size brushes. So I will mention them as I use them. I might not use all of these, but you're mainly going to want some sort of a round that'll make fine lines. So kind of a smallish round, and then kind of a medium brush for the trunk, and then some sort of a fan or scruffy brush like a blender for the foliage and the leaves, and kind of a larger flat for some of the bigger areas to block in. So that'll do you. You don't have to have all these ones that I've got here. Let's go over our colors. We've got carbon black, burnt umber, burnt sienna, quinacridone burnt orange, yellow oxide, Indian yellow hue, and then I decided to go ahead and just put out 4 different reds, but use what you've got. I've got cadmium red light and medium, quinacridone red and magenta, quinacridone magenta, and then this is dioxazine purple, ultramarine blue, phthalo turquois, unbleached titanium, titanium white, and a little bit of gloss glazing liquid. If you don't have a gloss glazing liquid, you could use another fluid medium to help thin the paints for glazing. So, all right.
Hey, we have a famous musician in the chat today with us, Mr. Rob.
Nice. Hi, Rob. Very cool. You guys need to check out his music.
Yeah.
He's a friend of ours. He's an amazing musician. Rob McCormick. I think it's some guy named Rob on YouTube, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. So
just like his name there.
Yep. All right. I think I'm going to go with about the third there decided to kind of take out this extra tree here. I might put it farther back and do another layer. I don't know what I'm going to do yet exactly. I think I'm going to take out the extra trees though, and just have this one main tree as our focal point. So that's the idea. We may decide we want to change it up as we go along, but so I'm going to go ahead and kind of just make a mark for so my foreground here, right about on the third or a quarter or kind of in between. And then our tree's going to live here. I'm going to move him over just slightly so he's a little bit closer to the third. And he's going to come down about halfway down this line here. So he's going to live somewhere in here. And he's got a nice wide base. And then I like this tree because it kind of has some character. It kind of meanders up and curves back this way. And this part goes this way and this part goes this way. And
hey, you're describing me. A wide base that meanders up, and some parts go this way and some parts go that way.
Maybe that's what attracted me to it.
Oh, yeah. It's like, hey, wait a minute.
Hey, I recognize that shape. I like. All right, so that'll be kind of our main thing. I think I'm going to put this branch off of this one, and I'm going to exaggerate this one out farther than it goes, and then do the same thing with this one and just kind of bring it out and off, and it's just going to fill up this whole top part and just be this kind of red canopy at the top of our canvas. We do want some of the sunlight peeking through, and so like over here there's kind of like a pop of sun that's kind of coming through, so I'm probably going to put it in here somewhere a little bit closer to this side, somewhere in here maybe. And then there's a small line of trees that's kind of back here that kind of goes up like this. So I think I'm going to create this vignette thing with this so that it kind of cups. It goes lower down in the middle and then it kind of cups here. So it'll kind of draw the eye in, and same thing with our foreground. And then there's kind of a little path that goes off this way. And that's about it for our sketching. I'm not going to do a whole lot more sketches. I think that that'll get us pretty much where we want to go on that. And then our foliage, I want to kind of create some movement with it on our tree. So I don't want it to overlap this one too much. I might bring it down just a little bit over the top of this part here, but it's going to kind of fill up this whole area here and then have just a few areas of sunlight peeking through, and there'll be some tree branches that maybe come down a little bit farther here, something like that. All right. Just using regular school chalk there, so this can be erased if I made a mistake or if you didn't like it. You could take a little bit of water and wipe it off. The colored chalk sometimes tints your thing, so just be careful depending on the kind of canvas you're using, but or surface. I did do this a mural once on a wall with blue chalk and it didn't erase. So, lesson. Note to self. Know your paint.
And that's just standard classroom chalk, right?
Yes, this is just standard classroom chalk. It's a special brand, Hagamoro. It's a little bit more expensive because it's supposed to be less breakable, and it's like a older, more known kind of chalk, I guess.
Okay.
I don't know. I believe the hype on it is what I did. I bought a really expensive
you bought
chalk.
into it.
I did. I don't really notice a whole huge amount of difference, but it is kind of more dustless, I think, than other chalks.
You're supposed to draw with it with your pinky pointing out.
When I use it?
Yes.
Is that how I was supposed to do it? Okay, sorry. All right, so I'm going to grab a big brush and start blocking in some shapes and kind of work from the back to front. So we'll start with our sky and get some blue. Of course, blue, but our blue in this case is kind of washed out with a lot of the yellows from the scene. So I'm really adding a lot of white to it and just a tiny bit of burnt umber. And I decided to play with the color scheme as well. So we've got this kind of green and red, which is that classic kind of complementary color scheme going on. But I decided to go ahead and push it out a little bit. And so doing more of a triad with red violet on our tree, and then more like blues and the yellow greens as well. So we'll still have a little bit of the green, but I also want, and there is pops of this yellow orange in our scene, but there's not really a lot of turquoise. So I'm going to just put in some turquoise that's not in our photograph, but I think it's going to really work well with this color scheme. It'll be a nice color to introduce. So back to our sky color here. So a little bit of ultramarine blue and mostly white, tiny bit of brown to just kind of knock it down and make it a little bit less saturated. And that's probably even still too bright, but we'll see. I'm going to get a little bit of white here and just kind of start at the base of our trees. I'm going to go a little bit lower than I had so I have more room for a canopy here. So I'm just going to kind of push this horizon line down a little bit. All right. Somewhere in there. Now, once we get up into this area here, we're going to have a lot of our red. So I'm going to go ahead and put that blue in here, but I'm going to kind of sort of go around my tree a little bit and just leave space for that red to go. So kind of go around my branches slightly. And if you cover them up, that's fine. You can always paint them back in. It's not going to be a big deal. And I do want to save some of this blue. I'm going to make a little bit more of it. Oh, is Spencer here?
That's what the timer was.
Spencer's here. Her son goes to college here in town and lives on campus, but he comes sometimes during the shows to help watch the dog, which is nice. We tried watching Dune last night as a family, and we lost him about hour 2. He's like, all right, I'm out. I loved it, but it was long, so.
What was long?
Dune. And we lost Spencer about hour 2. It's like, how long is this? She tricked me. She lured me in with Pasta Girl and where his favorite restaurant and the promise of a movie, and then it would not end. It was awesome.
But
all right, it was great.
It was a good movie. It didn't. I mean, you kind of noticed that it was like long, but it wasn't one of those that just needlessly went on long.
Right. Yeah, it was entertaining the whole time. So I really liked it. All right, so just a few little patches of space for my red to go, and I'm going to go ahead and grab that red. I'm going to use the, let's get the cadmium, or the Quinacridone Magenta and the Quinacridone Red. Sorry, I don't know. I'm having trouble with my words right now. And get a little bit of blue, maybe a little bit of the turquoise. The turquoise will darken it up. Yeah, there we go. Make it a deeper reddish, kind of purplish color. I don't want it too purple though, so if it looks too purple, go get a little bit more red. But I want a little bit of a darker color for back in here, just slightly darker than what we're going to have in front. And that purple will be kind of a cooler color, so it'll recede visually. So this will look kind of like our undercarriage of our tree, or I don't know. We had this conversation before. I want to say understory, but it's not right. Somebody even sent me a graph on my email of what an understory is, because I was using it improperly, so, which I appreciated. It's like a rainforest. The understory is the like middle trees in the rainforest.
Oh, I love it.
I know. RV are the best fans ever.
I wish I had thought of that.
What, sending me an email?
Yeah, a graph.
Well, it wasn't a graph. It was like a photograph. You know, it was like
a photograph.
Well, yeah, kind of like a.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It showed
showing you all the layers.
Right, showing the layers with the labeled.
Yeah, we did this on the girl walking with the yellow trees.
Because we were talking about. I was calling it understory, and you were like, "I don't think that you're using that right." And I was like, "Well, I know words better than you, so pretty sure I am using it right." And then you were like, "No, you're wrong." So, and he was wrong. I was wrong. That's right.
The understory
for once, Mark
is what grows less than 2 meters off the ground.
Okay, so whatever this under part of the tree is called, I don't think we ever really did.
The bottom. No.
I'm sure it has a word, but anyhow.
Understory layer.
Well, maybe.
Well, no, there's a forest floor, understory layer, canopy layer, and emergent layer.
That's what. Okay, so we're definitely going to have to add darker trees to this, but this is kind of, I think, how I'm going to do the tree, though, in this kind of choppier style, a little bit blockier. And I definitely think, okay, so right now I've got this bowl thing going on. So I definitely want to break up this shape so it's not like just so obviously bowl-ish, you know, does that make sense? So I'm going to bring this down here and probably move some of this up in through here. So I've got a different layers going on here. Maybe like that. There we go. So we've got some going up here, some going up there, and then maybe bring this down here again. All right, I think that'll work. This is just mainly to kind of map in our main shapes. It's not meant to be really obvious. We're going to paint over most of this, but we'll see a little bit of it through as we get our upper layers on. And again, I want to add a little bit more water to this, and then we're going to do our trees back here. So this is where I think I'm going to bring in that turquoisey color. So a little bit of turquoise with the sky color. Always a good way to create depth in your landscape is to use the color of your sky in your far distant trees or mountains or whatever it is you're doing. So I added a little bit of burnt umber to it so that it's not so obviously bright. I think I'm going to switch to a different brush. I don't really like how this one's doing these kind of weird points, so I think I'm going to get a Filbert. Let me get a little bit bigger Filbert in the scruffier brush. I'll get the 6 Filbert in the Aspen. That was the 12 Bright that I was using in the Summit. I think Fitz has figured out that Spencer's here. He suddenly jumped up. Like, wait a minute. Fitz is our dog, Fitz Pickle. Weirdest name dog ever, but totally made up name. It's supposed to be Fitzwilliam Darcy, but we made Pickles the day we went and saw him, so we changed it up a little bit because of that. All right, so I already can tell that I'm not sure I like the composition here. I think it's too up and down. So I'm going to go ahead and bring that up. Crowd out that part just a little bit. Yeah, that'll be better. Get some of that sky color. And I want this really soft and misty, so if it's too dark, you just add more white to it or a little bit more of that sky color just to make it softer. And I think I want to get more white here and just kind of create maybe a little open space right here. I'm layering on the paint kind of thick so that I can kind of push it around a little bit. And that's why I'm using this kind of stiffer bristled brush too, because it allows you to kind of push the paint around a little bit more with these heavy body acrylics. Okay, so I want the sky to kind of fade into these trees so much that you almost can't tell where they start and where the sky begins. Kind of. That's the sort of look I'm going for here, really misty and soft. All right, I'm going to get a little bit more of that turquoise, and this time I'm going to get some burnt sienna. And that'll make a deeper, richer teal color. if you didn't have the Phthalo Turquoise, you could use Phthalo Blue here instead. Where I'm using this Phthalo Turquoise would be very similar. And you can add a little bit of some, let's get a little bit of the lighter color. Just want kind of a middle tone. Maybe not that dark. There we go. And just going to add some kind of mid-layer bushes. Sort of, I'm say this is far middle, and then this will be this line here under the tree will be our near, so our foreground. So this will be kind of our middle ground here. So we're just kind of adding sort of a little bit darker color. Oops, sorry, turn that sideways. And I'm gonna get,
someone is at the garage.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm gonna turn her off right now. There we go.
In case anybody needed to know that.
Yeah, in case anybody needed to know, somebody's at our garage. Fortunately, Spencer's here to handle that. Does he know to go?
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Hopefully he can follow the clues.
Well, if he's got his earbuds in, he might not hear it. But, okay, so doing a little bit more like a muted brownish green here. I like this. I love the combination of red and turquoise. If you don't like this, you could use more green. It's just up to you. But I like the turquoisey. I'm gonna get a little bit more of the deeper turquoise and do a little bit darker bush right here, coming down, and get some of that middle tone here. Use that up here, and I'm just kind of pushing that paint up using the rounded part of that Filbert to just smush that paint around where I want it to go. And I'm going to spray this. A little bit of water, try to keep that paint a little bit wet while I'm working with it. And just whatever color I use over here, I want to use it on the other side of the tree too, so it's got some continuity. Same. All right, that looks good. And so again, I've got this kind of layered flat area here, so I want to create some interest. And whoop, let me get some red, mix that with that dark green, a little bit of the background color. So I've got, yeah, there we go. So it's muted, but it's just slightly reddish. Do a small, I don't know if I like that. We'll see. This is going to be one where we're just going to experiment a little bit, so you're just going to have to kind of bear with me. You may want to, if you're going to paint along, watch the whole thing so I don't get mean emails about changing things. Well, we'll just be adding lots of layers and trying out different scenarios here. There we go. Just kind of adding another little something right here, just so that it's not just flat. And when you've got this kind of scene that you're painting, and you've got that classic tree shape, and you've got your values right, and you've got this illusion of distance with the lighter trees in the background and things. When you do these kind of vague shapes like this, your brain, you don't even have to have the detail in. Your brain just kind of automatically interprets this rounded, tall shape as a tree, because that's what it's pre-programmed to see. So our brains are constantly scanning the environment around us and filling in the gaps. We're not actually focusing and really paying attention to each individual object, where our brains are taking in all this all this stuff around us, and based on the scene and, you know, what you know about, you know, being outdoors and whatever from past experiences, you kind of fill in the gaps in your mind. So we don't have to have everything really detailed, and that's what we're kind of playing with in this photo, in this painting. We're just playing with kind of that illusion of depth by creating these different layers of values. So I added some yellow oxide to the green here, and using that, this is just a kind of another layer. This was kind of dryish, so I'm just adding a little bit of that on top to add a little bit of different value here. And let's just go ahead and fill in the rest of this down here. So I'm going to get the Unbleached Titanium, a little bit more of that brown, fill in this path, and just kind of doing it side to side like this. These like horizontal lines will make that look like a path and not a bush. It's just a kind of a matter of playing with all of the colors and values and shapes to create these illusions. So I'm going to get some burnt umber and create some darker foreground here. So we'll put in some lighter trees and things, or lighter, not trees, but lighter bushes and plants and things. So we get some nice dark burnt umber. I haven't cleaned out my brush, so it's just filling in all this color right in here. And let's go ahead and add some of this really dark over here too. Got this area of really dark right in through here on this side of the path. It's probably not dark enough, but we'll just start there and we'll add more to it later. And a good thing to remember is that when you're doing this illusion of depth, the background is generally going to be lighter, less saturated colors, and then the foreground is going to be much more contrast in your colors. So you're going to have lighter and darkers, more extremes. So background, you're going to stay in kind of this range, maybe in here, somewhere in here. And then as you get to the foreground, you're going to expand that out and add these colors and these colors and these colors until you have the full range of values in the foreground. And that way it automatically, so no matter what colors you're using, you'll still get that effect. So that's why we can play with these colors however we want to. But using these cooler colors, this lighter turquoisey green, bluish green, which is a cooler green, will make it recede too. So, alrighty, that's good for our first layers. Let's go ahead and put in our tree trunk. So for that, I think I'm going to get I actually think I want kind of a largish round. Let me get, I thought I picked out my brushes, but there we go. So I'm going to use the Foreground in the Princeton Summit series. And for the tree trunk, I want it to be purplish blue, a little bit of turquoise. So I want it really dark blue, and a little bit of burnt umber so that it's not so in your face purple, but I want the tree in the photograph, it's very purplish. I'm even going to add a little bit of black to make it even darker, just for that first. It might be too dark. And holding the brush a little bit farther back will help you, well, if you're wanting to be a little bit looser with your painting. So in this case, I'm just trying to kind of create more texture along that line there. But, you know, if you want a smoother line, you can hold it more like a pen and really carefully draw that line in and then just fill in the middle. So however you want to do it. I'm kind of trying to get like a softer edge there, so I'm just holding it a little bit farther back. But if it doesn't cover well, if you've got gaps and it's not going on smoothly, just add a little bit of water to your paint. When you're using a round brush especially, it's important to have fluid in your paint, otherwise it just won't come off your brush. It's just going to stick to it.
So you want them to hold on loosely, but don't let go?
Don't make me laugh. Yes, honey, I do.
Okay, thank you.
That's. We've been watching a little too much of that Shazam show.
Or they cling too tightly to lose control. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the nonsense.
Glad you guys are hanging out with us on a Saturday. Pretty cool. This is probably too dark for back here, but I'm wanting to bump up the contrast just a little bit. So I'm just going to add a little bit of this in my darkest areas down here. And yeah, that'll help. That really kind of pulls the eye down too. Okay. You know what I think I want to do is put another branch in down lower. So I think I'm going to bring out a branch here. Even though it wasn't in my photograph, I think that it will keep it from looking like it's everything's happening up here. So just starting a branch a little bit farther down, and really kind of didn't do that at the right angle there. Somewhere like that.
It's looking like a tree.
Thanks. As I go up, just kind of wiggling and narrowing my brush strokes so that they get thinner as I go away from the branch and the tree trunk. And we'll be adding more smaller branches to this. This is just kind of our initial mapping out of kind of our limbs of our tree here. In our photograph, there's like a really heavy, thick branch that comes up, but I think I want to make it a little bit more airy. This is your painting, so you can, as long as you kind of, follow the basic rules of tree anatomy, you can make this however you want, So, but the main thing with trees is that I see people do sometimes is that they'll end a branch real thick. So they'll come out here and they'll just do like that and end it and have that not go to anywhere, So just make sure you're tapering your brush strokes out so that those branches are coming to a smaller point. Just makes it more realistic. So I think I'm going to, since I did this one down here, low, I'm going to start up here and bring this one down this way. And back up. So it's kind of holding those branches up like arms. And see right here where I got narrow right in here? That's where we want to avoid. So I want to go back in here and thicken that up and make sure that it's thicker all the way to the base. And that I don't have any areas where that branch is thinning and then getting thicker as it goes out. And for the most part, your branches are going to go out and up and kind of make Y shapes as they split. Occasionally, you will have a branch that goes down and maybe looks like it's in the wrong direction. So, and a lot of times those are the branches coming straight at you. So if a branch is coming straight at you, it might be, it might be angling down from the tree and swooping back up, but you may see it like this as angling down instead of, if you looked at it from the side, it would be more like this, where it would have this kind of, coming up and out and over instead of straight down. But if you don't see where it's attached to the trunk, then it may look like it's just kind of coming straight down. I would not do too many like that because sometimes it can kind of throw off the eye if it is too obvious. Especially if I came in at the opposite direction. So if I came in here and did a branch that was going this way, and all of the rest of them are going up this way, it might kind of break that, break the look of the tree. I don't really see those kind of branches on here anyways, so occasionally you'll have a photograph that has it at just that angle that kind of causes that. And a lot of times I will kind of adjust that, or just depends on what we're, trying to do. This one, we're going to cover most of this up anyways, so it'll be fine. But we will see a lot of these branches, and I don't want to not crisscross them. You see how I'm kind of like staying away from all of them here? So I need to crisscross some of these because this tree is not going to be this polite. It's going to crisscross it. The branches are going to be competing for light, and they're not going to all stay separate like that. So let's do some coming up this way. Do a few down here that kind of come this way and back up. Okay. All right, that looks pretty good. Just do however you like, as many as you want. Let's go ahead and I'm going to get this brush. This is my blender. And I'm going to get this dark color here. I'm going to add a little bit more of the Quinacridone Magenta and Quinacridone Red to it. And I'm going to find my darkest places in my tree. So I see a few areas, and this tree honestly doesn't have a ton of contrast in its foliage. So we're just going to have to kind of fudge it. But I'm going to think about where in the photograph that I'm seeing a little bit more of the shadows in the foliage. There will be some, and use this to do that. And this will give it kind of just another layer. But you see how this nice soft red in the background is going to kind of be pushed back now. So it won't be our focal point anymore. It was real obvious when we first put it in, but now that we're doing this, it'll kind of take a back seat and just become kind of a soft part of the foliage that's a little bit farther away. Okay, so got a few good little areas. This area's got a little bit more of the sunlight, but it will have a little bit of that contrast. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of this up here, maybe not as much. And then in some of these areas, I'm going to get that really dark purple red, maybe even a little bit of black. And do just some really dark areas. This will give us a really good area to pop those bright reds off of. So be kind of selective where you put this. You don't want to put too much of it. Your darkest darks and your lightest lights should be used the least. It's kind of like salt and pepper. You just want to kind of add just a little bit to flavor your painting, but you don't want it to overwhelm it if you put too much. Okay, I like that. It's kind of creating a little bit of a moody, darker feel, especially in this middle area here. Okay, I like that. Let's go ahead, clean that out really well. Let's go do a second coat on here, and I'm going to go ahead and do my sky again. So I'm going to get some more of the Ultramarine Blue in my white, a little bit of the burnt umber, not much. Okay. And I'm going to go back in here and dabble in some sunlight. And it's okay if you go over your branches, it's fine. We'll fix it. We're gonna do the branches over again, so that was just our initial start. That sky is still looking very yellow in some places, so I want a little bit more bluish. And this is kind of softening up those edges yet again, especially that first layer of edges, kind of giving it a little bit softer blend. I'm going to try to blend this out so it's nice and kind of soft. So I don't want this like hard lines where it's covering my red. I want it to kind of blend in. So you could add a little bit of red if you need to get it to blend. This brush kind of does a good job though, because it's kind of got that texture in it, so it creates that little bit soft, scrubby, dry brush texture. Just see how it's kind of creating this soft glow in our tree. And I could do this before I did I probably could have done this before I did my branches, but I kind of wanted my branches in, so I kind of knew where to put my darker reds. So it's just a matter of layering. We'll do can always cover, go back in with the branches again. Over here where the sunlight's coming through, there's more fading out of the color. And I don't mind fading over the branches either. It kind of looks like the sunlight's peeking through and softening up those branches, so honestly don't mind that it's doing that. Kind of liking the look of it. So here's that distant tree line here. So I think we're going to
So here we are nearly to the end of October. Mm-hmm. And it's 80 some odd degrees outside here.
I know.
So our air conditioner is still running
Yeah.
fine.
Welcome to Arkansas. If you don't like the weather, wait a day. It's the saying.
Sometimes an hour.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Now just kind of starting to be a little bit more deliberate with my brush strokes here, going over that red. There we go. I really like that. Quinacridone Red's got just a slight rosy glow, and it's also transparent, so I just thought it'd work well. It's very close to the color that I saw in this tree, but if you don't have it, you can just use your Quinacridone Magenta with a little bit of red to, another red, more an orange leaning red like the Cadmium Red Light or Cadmium Red Medium to make it a little bit darker. Okay, so all this really pretty fuzz. This is just what I wanted to explore today. I've been watching a lot of pastel artists lately, and I kind of love that look that you get with pastels. And I thought I'd try to kind of get that same feel with paints, so kind of approach it the way you would with pastels. That was kind of the idea. Just that more impressionist style, creating blocky shapes instead of just small brush strokes and painting every leaf, doing bigger shapes of the tree, looking at your tree, maybe kind of squinting your eyes to look at your tree and see sort of the shapes that you're seeing in it, and then painting those in before you do any leaves. So that's the idea here. I'm going to get some more of this darker purple color and do a little bit down in here with it, but kind of liking that. And we'll just pretend like maybe that's the tree coming over the top of that right there. I need to put that dark back in up there. I kind of covered it. I want this to be my darkest area. It's kind of a little bit too purple, so I'm going to add a little bit black to that. Quinacridone Magenta, purple, burnt umber, black. There we go. Don't be afraid to go really dark. This should be just about the same value as our tree trunk, so nice and dark. That'll give us good contrast. Okay, that's
Hey,
good.
real quick. When you were doing the white, what white were you using?
What white was I using?
Yes.
Titanium white.
Okay.
Yeah,
Grazie.
yeah. Titanium white, and then this is that ultramarine blue mixture for the sky color. I'm going to use more white down along the horizon line here. Get a little bit of that turquoisey green that we were using in the mid-tone if we have any left. If we don't, we can grab a little turquoise and burnt sienna with white. With that, actually it was with that sky color. There we go.
We have another question. They would like to know, what is the difference between acrylics and pastels?
Well, pastels are are like pencils. So, or not pencils, but they're like a chalk kind of. They're a stick. They come in pencils. They come in different shapes. Some comes in pans that you can kind of put on. But yeah, so just kind of making marks with bigger intentional brush strokes so that it looks a little bit more soft and blendy. Okay, just making sure I've got good coverage here for my trees. In the midground there, got some yellows peeping through, which I like. And so I'm going to want to resolve that a little bit. So I want to get some more of my turquoise and burnt sienna. Let's go ahead and get some of this Quinacridone burnt orange. That has just a slight reddish tone to it. Get a little bit of white. I'm going to use that up here. So I'm going to go inside the shapes that I've made here. Just add, but I don't want my value to go much darker than kind of a mid-value color. I don't want it to go super dark, because I still want this to stay looking like it's in the background. But I don't think I like it over here. I'll just use it on this bush. Okay, there we go. All right, I like that. Very kind of smoky, foggy, soft. That's the idea. All right. Start working on our foreground a little bit. I'm going to let this dry really well up here. We'll go ahead and work on the foreground, and then, because it's kind of behind the tree somewhat, and then we'll work on the tree trunk when we get to this farthest. So back in here, I'm going to get some of my Quinacridone Red and some Unbleached Titanium. And add a little bit of that Indian Yellow Hue to it, just to kind of make it a little bit more orangey. I just want it kind of soft. There we go. Soft reddish, kind of a salmon pink color. Get a little bit of that. Sky color, just slight little bit of it. Don't need a lot. Just kind of push up with this. When you're using this brush, it kind of creates like almost like grasses. So I just kind of create this like soft mid-ground here, kind of in between that far. A little bit of this. I don't want it too saturated though, so if it looks too saturated, we need to add a little bit of like burnt sienna or something to it to dull it down a little bit. I don't want it to pull our eye away from this foreground, so I think I'm going to add a little bit of the browns, brownish yellows to it. Bit of burnt umber. And I'm going to get a little bit of that turquoise from the background. Add that. And where they blend, where they meet, I just want to kind of blend out that edge just a little bit. Okay, and over here I want to make it a little bit darker. Let's get a little bit of this Indian yellow hue and some of that turquoise. A little bit of burnt umber. And again, just kind of creating some random, vaguely tree-like or bush-like shapes. Not trying to get too fancy with it. Just kind of blend out that edge. And if we need to, we can add some highlights on top of this dark bush here with this color. I think I need darker back here. Just going to get a little bit darker. Okay, there we go. This dark will kind of help lead the eye back in here. Get a little bit of the Indian yellow hue, a little bit of white. Like a bright, soft green. Yellow green, this is where that yellow green is going to start to come in. Up in here, just using this brush. I'm kind of tapping and swiping, doing like little circular motions. Just trying to keep it random. That's the main thing. You don't want it to get too patterned with things in nature. So just keeping it very random. And there's a section of this color down here. Kind of around the same area. So if you keep the same colors kind of in that same general area, that also kind of helps with that illusion of distance. Kind of creates these layers of colors and values. Okay. Let's see. Sorry, going off the camera there.
So where would we put this on the difficulty level scale?
I don't think this is terribly difficult. I really don't. I think that, you know, as long as you're, I mean, some people find this kind of blending difficult, but I think that it's very forgiving. I think that if you have an area where you're meeting two colors together and then you just use kind of a combination of both colors to bridge that gap. So that's what we did here. Like when we did this pink, it looked a little bit too harsh. So I added some of the turquoise from the layer above it to that pink and then just blended it out the top of it a little bit. And that smushed those colors together and kind of softened it up. So I don't think that there's no techniques in here. I don't think that are really technically difficult. Probably the hardest part of the lines in the tree, I would say. So
timestamp the video at 1 hour and do some screen grabs of the hands so you can understand fully how difficult it is. Especially the part where you're pointing to the fingers. That was good.
Fingers?
Yeah.
I was pointing to my fingers?
Yeah, you do. You don't even notice it. It's awesome.
What was I doing?
You're explaining about colors next to each other or something like that. So
I do notice that more when I'm on a Zoom call because I can kind of see myself. And then I noticed, I was in a group Zoom call and it got to be my turn to talk and I was doing all kinds of stuff with my hands and.
But I know I do the same thing. It helps you think.
Yeah, it helps me think. Well, and I do it so much in my videos. It kind of helps because I'm not on camera, so I feel like it helps me make my point. But
Right.
maybe it does. I don't know. It's probably really distracting. I think it's helpful.
No, it is. No, because especially when you're showing the direction that things are going, I think it's easy for people, like when you're painting the flowers and the petals,
Right.
and showing them, the petals
Oh, right.
pointing straight
right.
at you or
Right.
whatever. It is a very genuine help for sure.
Good. All right. So we're already an hour in. I'll just start putting some finishing touches on here. All right. We're doing pretty good though. I think I'm going to stick with this brush. It's doing all right.
Which one is that again?
The 3/8 inch blender. Yeah, I keep saying that I'm going to tell you brushes that I'm using, and I don't. So I did tell you those three though.
You did. Yeah.
I didn't mention this one. All right, so getting that turquoise and some of the Indian yellow hue. I'm going to go a little bit more turquoise with it. Maybe a little bit of the burnt ultramarine blue will help kind of that blue tone to the grass as well. And then get the unbleached titanium there. So we create kind of a really pretty sage green. Get more white because I'm totally out. And somebody asked the other day, when I was putting out my quinacridone red, the cap broke in half. I'd already glued it once. It was a goner. So this is how I save my paints if that's happened. You put it in a plastic baggie and then just get as close to that cap as you can. So you could put the thing around it if you want to. You could put aluminum foil over the top and then cap it, because this bag will probably get kind of full of paint after a while, but that will keep it from drying out for a while. So, what are you laughing at?
Or golden, you can just send us some caps, please.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Just saying.
That happened too. There was a whole section when I first bought my golden paints, and that bottle is probably, I would say, a good 5 years old easily. And they all did that. So it was just a bad batch, I think. All right. Getting a little bit more yellow. Ooh, that's pretty. So I've got this kind of yellow green. And I got these sage greens here in various values. So kind of dark, medium, light, and then a little bit more yellow. And the key with painting grass and greens is that your yellow are going to be in the sunlight. So if you already know from your scene what are in the sunlight, then you can use your yellow greens in that area, because the sunlight passing through the leaves turns them yellow. And that's a really easy way of pointing out your areas of light in your trees. So here's some yellow that's maybe our sunlight's coming through here, hitting this area right here. And then we're going to grab some of this darker turquoisey green. And I don't want to cover all of that dark up, so I just kind of want to go over it a little bit and create some random grass shapes. So, and I want them to come down over the path a little bit in kind of horizontal planes. So one here, one here, one here, and just kind of as we go up, get them farther and farther apart, but kind of just have these like little sections coming out over my path of the green until we get back here. Makes sense?
Yes.
Okay.
And I just posted in chat, but that's another way people can support the channel, is to send us paint caps to the P.O. box.
Yes. No.
No? Okay.
It's fine.
You'll have like 6,000
Somebody did send me
paint caps.
this. The first one I got was really helpful.
Yes.
The bottle opener, or not bottle, yeah, tube opener, I guess.
Tube opener, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, there we go. So nice, like, kind of distance going on there. Let's go ahead and kind of do it up in here. And here I'm going to kind of do sort of more grass-like textures, like just pushing upward. You could use a fan brush for this, but this one seems to be doing okay. So I'm just going to leave little sections of dirt and just kind of do little bits of grass here and there. Again, if you don't have one of these, you could use a fan brush or something and do this with the fan brush. Just kind of create some little grasses. And I'm getting some dark because it's not all light too. It didn't get very dark in here, so. And these are actually kind of in the shade, so I don't have to do too much with these. There's not a ton of highlights on them. I'm going to go ahead and kind of highlight our path just a little bit. And might widen it out over here. I kind of got it crowded. Get a little bit of burnt sienna and some yellow oxide, and I'm just going to kind of push that pad out a little bit. There we go. Add some yellow, maybe dried grasses or something in here. There's some really nice like flowers and things in this foreground too. So, okay, so that's about all I'm going to do with the background. So you can see it's very like kind of impressionist, very soft and blendy looking. I really like that look. And I'm just going to keep it like that. All right, so for our tree trunk, it's got lots of texture on it. I'm going to go ahead and go with a little bit smaller blender, this 1/4 inch blender. And it's got some green, so I'm going to go ahead and grab some of this green from our grass. And I'm going to start with that. And I'm going to lay this brush almost flat here. And leave little bits of the dark here and there. Just push down where you want like a little bit more coverage. But it's going to kind of create these little shadowy spots on our tree. I'm going to get some of the magenta and add it to this green and a little bit of this foreground color here. I just like to use the same colors that we've got going on in other places. It always kind of helps unify your painting. So there's like a big knot right here. I'm going to go around and leave this nice dark spot right there. And on this half, I'm going to go a little bit, this half here where the light's coming from over here. I'm going to go a little bit brighter and maybe a little bit warmer with my highlights. It's a little bit more of this reddish light. And okay, so we had this tree trunk crossing over here in our photograph, and it comes down here and kind of crosses over this way. And I'm going to get a little bit of blue, ultramarine blue here. So on my shadow side of my tree, I'm going to mix that with my green and use that blue on this side. Trying to decide if I like that or not. I don't know. Let's go ahead and do some more and maybe we'll be able to tell. And right about in here, we're going to stop kind of seeing the texture in our branches. So, okay, I'm going to get some more of the purple, burnt umber, dark color. from our tree trunk. Go back over. And we get that black and go nice and dark right in here. And like at the base of the tree. See, in our photograph, there's a branch that comes right here that we didn't do also. So I may bring this branch over. Let's try that. Let's try bringing this branch over to the front above these two. That's better. Yeah, adding that little bit of highlight there. And then the light would catch right in here where they two meet too. Like that. Okay, that's good. So that pushed that back a little bit, gave us a little bit more of a foreground background on our tree. Good. And again, as I'm adding these highlights and shadows on here, I'm just making sure that I'm doing my warmer shadows on the one side of the tree. So I can add a little bit of red to that green. Do kind of a pink right here. And then I want it a little bit darker right there where it's coming up. If it's coming out at us, it's not catching the light, so that'll flatten it out a little bit. A little bit more of the green. And I'm kind of losing the values shift, so I'm going to let that dry, and then I'm going to glaze over that, and that'll kind of bump up the values in places. All right, so to do my leaves, I think I'm going to use the angle brush. This is the 6 Bright. I like the angle brush for doing leaves because you can do bigger spots and you can do smaller spots just by kind of changing the angle of it. So this is where I'm going to start to really put in some brighter reds. I'm going to start out with kind of a yellowish or orangey kind of red. I've got burnt orange and quinacridone red and cadmium red light, or red medium here. What were you saying? I thought you were starting to say something.
I was going to, but you did what I was going to ask, which is tell us what colors you're mixing. Good job.
Oh, thanks. Okay, I don't like that against that magenta, so I'm going to add a little bit more of the magenta to this. Just make it a little bit more of the... There we go. And I'm still going to kind of put it in sort of in bigger blocks, but then add the leaves along the outside edges. So just kind of starting in, maybe some of these ones that are farther away, I'm just going to put a few little dabs and call that good. Like that. And they kind of grow in these little kind of clusters of, you know, when you look at leaves, if you look at them closely, they kind of grow in these little clusters of like groupings of leaves because they're all coming off this same branch usually, you know, and so they'll grow around it and kind of come around. And so, and I also like to create, do them in kind of like these little planes of color that connect. So here's one in the darker. And I'm just going to do this color kind of all over, and then I'm going to switch to another color, do that, and switch to our highlights last. So this is just kind of laying the kind of mid-tone colors. So we've done our darks. We've done the far distant kind of smoky colors that are sort of that blended into our sky to make them look like they're out of focus. This is kind of our closer reds that are more in focus and creating some shape and midtones. But again, I'm following these kind of areas where I've already got these colors. So, you know, in here, anytime I've got this background red, I'm going to put in some of this in that area, at least some of it. And I'm pointing my brush straight down at the canvas so that that angle creates the little leafy shapes. Okay. Nice. And let's go ahead and put some of these colors on the foreground too. Path, leaves, leaf litter. As they hit the ground, they're going to flatten out. So we're not going to see the whole leaf. I'm too close together, honey.
Too close together.
Or too close to the camera so they can't see what I'm doing. Again, kind of keep these random. Okay, looks good. I'm going to grab that Cadmium Red Light and some of the Indian Yellow Hue and white. I want to create a soft orange. Use that over on this side where the sunlight's coming through just a little bit. Maybe a little bit of it over here, see. kind of on the bottom where the sunlight's hitting it. Peeking through, okay. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit of the white to my Cadmium Red Medium and Quinacridones. And I need some of this to cover over my tree, so I'm going to bring some over my tree, and this white will help cover my tree. That's why I added it to my red. Okay. Just figure out where you want your tree to come over your branch and use this more opaque. The white makes the red more opaque, so.
Not sure if that was the chair or me creaking that much, but while you're dabbing in all those leaves here, we'll talk about patreon.com/AngelaFunArt. Now, at the time of this video, we are getting towards the end of the month, so you may check and see, but because Patreon charges on a calendar month, so if you were to sign up today during the live show, you would pay now, and then on November 1st, then you would be charged again. So
You didn't even explain what they get. You just jumped in on. You're like, if I was listening, I'd be confused right now. You're like, what is he talking about paying?
I'm talking about Patreon.
I know.
It doesn't matter what you get. No. So right now, currently at the $2 level, you get traceables. So you get the hundreds and hundreds of traceables available, going back to February 2017, including this video here. Then there's a $5 level, which gives you that plus access to a monthly bonus video. And then on top of that, there's a $10 level where you get all of that. Plus you also get a challenge image where you paint every Thursday. And those other videos that I just mentioned are a little bit more in depth, a little bit more advanced.
Right. Yeah,
Also,
save the
there's
beginner type stuff for YouTube for free, and then the Patreon helps us keep our YouTube
supports the
videos
channel.
free. Yeah.
And then also the $10 level gets you a access to a special Facebook group where you can share things and get comments from Angela and so on and so forth.
Right. Yeah, more of my undivided attention.
And we thank you for the thousands of people who do support us on Patreon every month. It is incredible. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And then also down below the video, there's links to the brush guides to get brushes. We had somebody in the group this week ask about, what are some good brushes to start with. So it's great just to point them towards the brush guides. And
yeah, because I've got a list.
The beginner
on brush
set.
guys.
Yeah, there's a beginner set and an intermediate set. And you use the code AngelaFineArt, all one word, and you get an extra 5% off.
Yeah, and that helps them know that I referred you to, so helps out our channel. Doesn't cost anything, but just kind of helps them know who you heard from. It gives you a little 5% discount too.
Right, and that's something that you can put on your Christmas list and give it to your
There you go.
to your family and friends and say, hey,
I need some brushes.
there you go.
I know. I used to ask for gift cards and stuff, but now it's not a bad thing. I get sent free stuff now, which is super cool. So it's like Christmas all the time. All right, so you see what I'm doing here, hopefully, is starting to just like slowly layer in brighter and brighter colors, getting closer to the foreground here and just kind of creating these little sections of the tree that are bright and catching the light. And I don't see, I didn't put in my sunlight, so I'm trying to decide if I want to do that or not. Honestly, I think I'm going to go ahead and try to do a little bit of warm yellow light coming through here. Get some white and my Indian Yellow Hue. And just pick a spot on my tree here. And this is the part where I would probably not do this if you were a beginner, because this could get kind of messy. So this can be kind of tricky getting that sunlight effect, because you've got to kind of scumble over the top of these darker colors and make sure that you've got it nice and blended out. So I'm just kind of going over these colors and creating a soft blend so that it looks kind of like sunlight's peeking through. And I want just kind of a really bright white area somewhere in the middle there, poking through. And again, you can leave that part out if you don't want to do this. I don't know. I think I liked it either way, but it does kind of add a little bit to it. So I'm going to add this yellow kind of glow to the leaves around it too, and the tree. Just kind of fuzz it out. It just kind of helps make it all look soft and sunlit. Okay. Now once I get that in, I can go back in and add a few of my leaves over the top of that, just in that light pink color. Maybe kind of mid-tone along the edges. It looks like a Valentine's tree to me. It's got those colors. Kind of, I don't know. It's really pretty pink. All right. I'm going to go ahead and put some of these colors down here. So I'm going to get the darker magenta, a little bit of that burnt orange, and do some, oh, before I do this, though, I want to glaze on my tree. So I'm going to use burnt umber and blue, ultramarine blue, I think, and a little bit more on the blue side. So this will be my glaze. Get some glazing medium. See how it's kind of bluish there. I think I picked up some purple too, which is fine. Okay, so I'm going to use that and just glaze over my tree trunk. And glazing is just putting on a transparent layer, just like glazed donut. Just going over your area with a light wash of color, kind of like what we just did with that yellow up here. Only when you're going over, in this case, this is transparent, so this is a glaze. If you're going over an area with an opaque color, like we were doing with the yellow, that is called scumbling. So that's the difference, if you ever wondered. Nobody asked, but...
Well, you had me at donuts, so...
I'm going to get some of that sunlit color and just add it just a little bit to my tree right here. Where it's sticking out, and like a little bit right here. There we go. Like that. Kind of cool. I
Well,
might
I'm
add
liking
some
it.
more branches to it once I get the tree leaves done, but
So,
I feel like it's very pink right now. What?
are you going to add some guy walking around with a coal and a turnip? No? Okay.
What are you talking about?
I'm just trying to tie in the other videos we've done this month.
Oh, your pumpkin one? Okay. Don't. I am too far into my right brain to be able to communicate with that right now.
That kind of nonsense.
Exactly. Oh, goodness. So, using a little bit warmer red with a little bit more yellow in it instead of the pink color that I'm getting here. Getting a lot of pink going on. Don't know if I love it. It is very pink in my picture, though, so just in my defense. But I feel like I can bump up the red. Gonna pump it up here a little bit more, especially over on this side. Gonna create better movement in my tree here between my foreground leaves and background leaves. Adding a little bit of reddish cadmium red light here and there. What?
Somebody suggested maybe Liberace with some hard candy in the background.
I'm sorry, that was not my finest moment. For many years, I thought about it and cringed, but then I thought, he probably thought it was funny. Hopefully, he thought it was funny and wasn't offended.
Yeah, but every year, and in his household, every year, it was a topic. They were like, yeah, remember that kid that called you out
For not having chocolate.
for no chocolate? Yeah. So he heard about it every year. He did.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Add some burnt umber here. Actually, red is a good color, or black is actually a decent color to use with reds to darken them. It's especially if I want to get away from the purple tone. So I'm going to use the black here and cover some of my darker areas with the black, blackish red leaves here. Just adding the magenta and black together. Yeah, that'll make a nice dark kind of burgundy. I'm liking it though. I'm just playing now with my values and just making sure that I have nice tonal, darks and lights to draw the eye around my tree. I don't have just all one color there. Those really dark areas help a lot. And then just having, every now and then just kind of a little bit different red in there, Same values as some of the others. So, I'm not like Cadmium Red Light's not obviously darker or lighter in color, in value, which is just that dark and light scale that I showed you there at the beginning. But having all these different reds in here will help kind of lead the eye around too. Adding some lighter, more orangey tone leaves here and there with my highlights. Thinking about where the light might hit it. Quinacridone red here. And And this is where I can go back over. Once I do this initial layer of leaves, I can let it dry completely, and then I can glaze. So just like I did on the tree trunk, I can go in here, and I've done that before with red trees, and it turns out really nicely, because red is one of those colors that is kind of difficult to get a really good value shift, just because the light colors tend to look pink or orange. You know, if you have too much yellow in them, they look orange. So if you want a true bright red, what you can do is, okay, so that's dry right there. Go ahead and zoom in on that area right there. We'll do a little bit. I think some of that's dry too. So I'm going to get this Quinacridone red just on its own. Some glaze to make it transparent. And then I'm just going to go over that. So you can still see those leaves through, but I'm just tinting them red so that they're no longer pink. Of course, this Quinacridone red is slightly pink anyways, so it is slightly pink, but see, now it's red instead. And if you wanted to do, you can use cadmium red to get a warmer red. Most of this is not dry yet, so can't really glaze in all these areas, but I can add it in some of these areas to help. I think I should have used, I think I would have liked it a little bit better if I'd used a different, not so pink in the background. Now looking back, I don't know. It is basically the tone of the tree. I don't know. I guess I'm kind of just not liking so much pink, but it is that way in the picture, so it's fine. Okay, and then I'm gonna get some really bright white. I want some bright leaves, so I'm gonna add some yellow with this red. It's gonna have some kind of yellowish. And these are the leaves that I could add a little bit more of that red, but I don't want to bring up the value, so I want to keep it pretty bright. You can zoom back out now. Okay, thinking about where the light's hitting it. So here's my sunlight, so maybe right under that, and this part that's sticking out, facing it. Maybe part of the part of the tree. Just putting more of this light right around that area. And this is pretty close to the color that we used for that light too. And then picking some areas over here that I want to add it. Maybe just go a little bit darker for these ones back here. But we are almost done. really going over some of these dark areas too and making sure that I've got some nice bright red in those areas. This is getting pretty globbed up with paint here, so just have to be careful. But I'm going pretty thick with this so that it covers well. And then if you've got an area where you just don't have any value or it just looks like a solid color, then you can go in and add some leaves with a little bit darker color or a little bit lighter. Okay, I think pretty happy with that. Now I can go back in if I need to cover any of my branches up, you know, or put them back in. I'm going to get some of that purple, black, burnt umber, blue, make sure that I was using all my tree trunks. I'm going to add a little bit of the red to it. Just, it's like a slightly kind of smoky in some of these areas, and then put those back in. So just make sure you can see it over the top of your red. And then every now and then we'll just put in a branch that kind of comes up and over. I'm gonna get a smaller brush here. That's too big. Let's get the, oops. .2/0 script liner here. And find some of these open areas here and just kind of put a branch through them that way. Kind of. This helps kind of define these areas that maybe, you know, got a little lost or something. You can put some branches through. You can redefine some areas here. And don't do too many because you don't want to cover all of your nice greenery, or your, not greenery in this case, but your nice foliage up. But if there's any areas where, especially where we did the sunlight or the, you know, that blew through, what were you going to say?
Something very witty, but the time has passed. So
Okay.
I'll put it back and save it for another time.
Okay. Check. And then putting some branches down to these ones that are down here, so that it makes sense that they have foliage down here. Okay, let's do my little flowers in the foreground here. I'm going to get my smaller angle. This is the 3/8 inch angle. Get a little bit of the purple with my magenta, and just finding some spots to put these tall purplish flowers. Using the same colors as my tree, and I'm just going to kind of pull down. This may be a little bit big. This brush is a little bit big. A little bit smaller angle. 1/4 inch angle. Just add a water droplet there, that's all. So tap in, creating some little flowery shapes, and then get that liner brush again and yellow oxide, Indian yellow hue, white, a little bit of the turquoise, create a light green. Small little grasses. And go up over my tree trunk shape there so that it kind of looks grounded. Make sure that I found that it's really important to make sure that the foreground where your tree trunk meets the ground is the same value right in there, so that it dissolves down into the ground, and then that way you don't have this really obvious, like, your tree doesn't look like it's floating. Because if you don't do that, it'll look like it's kind of sitting on top and floating. And you don't want that. Or maybe you do, who knows. Maybe it's a magic tree, it's floating. Alrighty.
And what brush was that?
What?
What brush was that?
This is the script liner, 2/0 script liner. Oh, 2 script liner, sorry. 2 script liner, not 2/0.
Check.
Oh, get water. Getting some white here, just getting a really light pink here. I'm just going to go over these, add a highlight to them. Kind of, I don't know what these are, but they kind of look like snapdragons or some sort of a, almost like foxglove, but not quite. And then I'm just going to do some little yellow dabs here and there. Just to brighten up that forest floor. I feel like I can go just a little bit brighter on my tree trunk there too. And get a little bit of, clean this up right here. I'm going to go just a little bit lighter. So I'm going to get that Unbleached Titanium. A little bit of this green if I can. Just a slight bit of the turquoise. just really kind of add just very light textured areas in my tree branch there. There we go. Just kind of make it a little bit more, stand out a little bit more. I'm going to get a little bit of red and add that to this and add that kind of reddish highlight to some of these limbs coming up into the sunlight. All right. Fun. I think that's good. I like the kind of smoky feel we got. I think I'm going to bring this down just a little bit. I feel like we can push it a little bit more. Bring it down a little bit more, make it a little bit more interesting. Because I think these are both almost, they're all kind of almost on the same level there. So I think that I am going to bring one of these down a whole lot more drastically. So I'm going to bring it down this way in towards the tree right here. I don't know if that helped or hurt anything, but kind of playing with the shape a little bit. Last little bits. Sometimes these last little bits are what really bring it to life. And I'm going to go ahead and add some splatterings with, I think I'm going to use yellow, kind of like sunlight. Use my fan brush, some thinned out yellow. Thin it out enough that it just comes really easily off the brush. Dappled light. Just fairy dust right here. And some fairy dust. Okay, there we go. Little enchanted forest. And let's sign it and we'll be done. Get a small short round. And I think I'll use whatever I've got left of my light pinks here. Just sign it over here. No, I'm going to sign it over here because there's no good place to sign it. I don't want to cover that up. I think it'll be less distracting over here. All right, we are about done. So I think that come November, we're going to have, I didn't tell Mark this, a surprise. We're going to have something you've been asking for.
Uh-oh. Tanks.
No. We're going to bring back the man.
What?
At the end of the show when we're doing super chats. So Mark's going to have to draw me a stick man.
I love you. I was, logging the videos in the one with your paintbrushes with flowers on the tops. Mm-hmm. It just so happened to hit right at the time when you were showing all the stick men that we had done with the paintings and all that stuff. It was
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
I teared up a little bit.
Oh,
So thanks for bringing it back.
you missed him. You missed him.
Oh.
I know. It's all right.
So you're only going to do them if they're super chat? Because there's no super chat today. So
Uh-oh. So they better get on it. Just saying. No, I'm joking.
no.
Yes. Yeah, totally joking.
We will do it at the end regardless.
Yes. Yep. So we'll start. And those who don't know what Stickman is, you'll find out.
Oh, your life will be forever
You're
changed.
in for a treat. So
Yes.
we're going to come out with our November schedule this week. So be looking for that. If you're not part of our newsletter, you can sign up for that, and you'll get it first on Friday. Actually, you'll get emailed the whole list so that you'll have it in your inbox so you can easily find it. But otherwise we'll be posting it on my social media. All the links are down in the description and places to buy the materials that I've been using today, like Mark was mentioning. There's also a list for Amazon and some other places to buy paints and brushes and things. And we hope you come back and subscribe and leave a comment if you liked what we did. I'm going to break up this space right here. And yeah, we'll be back on Tuesday with the kitty cat. So we're painting a black cat. Looking forward to that one. So I hope you join us for that. And thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Have a great rest of your weekend. Bye.